technology may not be the issue. Getting people to get on board with the change and getting people to understand the change and be supportive of the change is what we really want to talk about. Michelle, I want to start with you. In your experience, and you've been in IT your whole career,
I have.
what is needed of leadership and of the workforce as you go through digital transformation?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. This topic of digital transformation and diversity and culture, things I could probably talk about for hours, so I'll keep it brief. Don't worry. There's wine back there, so that always shortens mine. So if you think about these and you think about from a leadership perspective, it starts with us as leaders, frankly, I believe. I think it starts from the way we even show up for our teams. I'm a big believer in transformational leadership styles, and that I think it's a buzzword that's used probably a little bit too much, but when I say that, what I mean is, I'm not sitting in some corner office in my ivory tower and throwing things down and expecting the team to respond what this change looks like and what it feels like. But really working to break down those barriers, be with the team, help them see what's possible, and then getting comfortable with change. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is change people's thinking, not their behaviors.
How do you generate that change from a leadership that perhaps is not familiar with doing things differently?
I think helping leadership understand that it's associated with the bottom line is really important. Right now, what's happening in a lot of spaces is that people are getting to some degree shamed into doing this work. They feel like it's feelings work. They're scared about it becoming a hashtag, right? So they'll put a diversity person and give them no resources and have no policy associated with it, right? But if you recognize that having more diverse people at the table will help you have a better understanding of your target market, right? Then you won't make mistakes. Like some organizations have made mistakes. I'm thinking in my mind of the misstep that Gucci made. The misstep that Pepsi made a couple of years ago with an ad that they put in that Kendall Jenner was in. Those are the things that happen when you're not tied into what's actually happening in your target market, right? You begin to make those missteps, and then it becomes a reactionary process as opposed to it being a proactive process.
How do you assess the cost benefits of retraining your staff to learn new skills or bringing in people that actually have those new skills already?
In finance, where we've done a lot of transformation, both on a technology perspective as well as how we do the work, we're working very diligently to go through our teams and train on some new skills, but there's skills that the team doesn't have. And so once you recognize what those are, hiring quickly to fill those skill gaps will then help translate across the entire team, because one really skilled person can train others to think differently and to empower them in those skills. But if you have none of that in the organization, it's really difficult to generate it on your own.
And how do you deal with sort of getting everyone aligned on the mission and why it's good for the whole company?
Estée Lauder is actually a very interesting company from the perspective of we're 79% women, but if you look at the different levels of the organization in specific areas, it's all men, right? And particularly at executive levels. I think the piece that has to be put into place in companies is to keep the communication going so that people understand who's who, where to go, and how to operate inside of the company.
I think it's interesting how companies are dealing with the new generation. I mean, there's a much more of a restlessness. We see people leaving between 2 and 5 years, especially the women. What you do to sort of retain talent after 2 years, they get bored and they're ready to move on.
I have a lot of millennials on my staff that have stuck around. And everybody says, oh, they just leave. And I'm going, no, they don't, not always.
We've had great success as well. Yeah. But we learned when they were leaving, it's not rocket science. It was their relationship with their manager in many cases, or the lack thereof. And that's so simple. So it's one of the things we've done is we reinforce as managers, having one-on-ones with your employees, being a coach, being a mentor is critical.
Yeah. People don't leave jobs, they leave managers. I am a firm believer in that.
Well, and we've just started a core manager training program because we realized that a lot of our managers had large teams and had never really received any meaningful training to be a manager. It's been interesting to take them through sort of a 6-month journey to build a better manager, because you can't lead a big team if you can't connect with them and have those conversations.
How do you attract that talent that wants to be in a place that has that diversity if you're not there yet?
I was in spaces where I was the token. After I graduated from Harvard last year, it put me in another space where many of the spaces professionally I navigate in, I might be the only Black person in the room, almost always the only Black woman in the room. That does not prevent me from going in the room. Yes, sometimes it really is important, and we want to have that familiarity in the rooms that we navigate in, but you know, many people just what they want more than that is the opportunity to navigate in the room. So we're not presenting that opportunity. I think we're going with a lot of assumptions when we suggest that people don't want to be here. They don't want to be here because, you know, it's in Boston and there's not a lot of diversity, or they don't want to be here because, you know, people feel intimidated, or whatever the dynamic is. And it's not true. People want the opportunity. They want access to the opportunity. They want to be able to grow. It's really hard for any person, but particularly a person of color, a woman of color, to come in an organization at the bottom level and navigate up to the top. Many women do zigzags, right? And I think that our companies need to be more open to the fact that people are gonna come in, and if they can't zigzag through the company, they're gonna zigzag through the industry. That's what it is, right? And so there are people that we can attract. We may not be able to retain them if we're not gonna be really intentional. Partner them up with mentorship. Make sure that there are opportunities for them to grow within the company. Pay them, right? There are a lot of people of color, there are a lot of women who are doing skilled work and they're not being paid for it. People know that, they feel that, and that's why they start looking at other opportunities, because they feel like they're not valued.
I have a lot more questions, but maybe some of you have questions. Yes.
First of all, really love this conversation. So enlightening for me. How do you help males in your industry understand, you know, how to empower women, in especially in the male-dominated industries or functions?
I have people who sit at the table with me and influence me who are not like me. And then I talk with my peers about that. And I talk with my peers about how, do you recognize everyone on your leadership staff, the reason you're liking what you're seeing is because they're saying yes to you because they are exactly like you. It's the exact point you were making to begin with. And so for me, it starts with a conversation. We all have unconscious bias, right? Now, if we're aware that we have them, we can do something about it.
It can be as simple as, what can I do, right? When you're in a room with someone, or you know, at a leadership table with someone, creating space for them to talk. Excuse me, what do you think about that, right? Highlighting something that they've said and sharing with them, like, listen, I'd want to connect with you, you know, is there a way that I can help you? I'd like to be a part of your success story.
I think it's just listening to your team. I'm in a new role in my company, and it is fundamentally because I asked for it, but I know that there was a different plan, and I said, hey, wait a minute, I'd like that role, and here's how it becomes a win-win for everybody in this domino. I do something new, this person does something new, this person does something new, and so I disrupted an entire chain, and maybe that doesn't always happen, but I think you have to listen to the team and maybe recognize that there isn't only one way to solve the problem.
Fundamentally, what I learned from being parented by the father that I had is that we're all human, and we all have a heart, and we all have a thought process, and we all have unconscious bias. It doesn't matter where we sit, it doesn't matter where we grew up, it doesn't matter our backgrounds, we all have these things in common. The specifics of them may be very different, and we think about things differently because of our gender biases and how we've grown up. But I think if everybody's willing to start getting to their own humanity and be in that sort of soup with the people that you work with, you'll start listening to people differently. And I think that's the key. Not a skill that men are taught a lot, right? Growing up.